If you're heading off to college for the first time, you might not be sure what you need to actually pack for college. As a professional college student, here's what you do need to put on your packing list. These are all things that I've used personally, so they can all definitely be useful depending on what your needs are. First, let's go over clothes. You're gonna wanna bring casual everyday wear. It'll be hard to be super dressed up every day, so sometimes you'll just wanna throw something on, and that's what this is for. You also wanna bring some athletic attire. It'll be good to get some exercise in, and you'll want to have the right clothes for that. Obviously, you'll also want to bring sleepwear, because you don't want to sleep in your regular clothes. Something else you'll definitely need is formal attire. There's a decent chance you'll be attending formal events, whether it be dances or banquets and networking events, all of which formal attire is going to definitely be good for. You might also want to bring your hardest fits. College is a great time to really experiment with your fashion style, so you might want to try a new wardrobe here. When you're trying to decide which clothes to pack for college, the important thing is to only bring clothes that you will actually definitely wear. So if there's something in your closet that you haven't worn in like a year, you might want to leave it at home. On that note, you definitely will want to leave behind all your high school merch, since you'll likely be getting a lot of new college merch once you're actually there. You might also want to bring extra storage for your clothes, so lots of hangers and then maybe also vertical storage hangers. These vertical storage spaces are really helpful for saving space, or if you know your drawers are already full. You will also want to bring a hamper for your clothes. I prefer ones with wheels so that you don't have to carry everything in your arms, or one that has like a shoulder strap that you can wear like a backpack, which is the one that I actually have. It'll also be good to bring detergent. I recommend Tide Pods just because they're a lot easier to deal with, but just know that sometimes they don't fully dissolve, meaning that you'll have to put your clothes through another cycle to wash them out. Okay, next, shoes. You'll definitely want to bring a pair of everyday shoes that are good for walking. You'll also want to bring athletic shoes that are good for running and other sports. And because you're going to be wearing formal attire, you will also want to have formal shoes to go with that formal attire. I might also recommend bringing a pair of beater shoes, which are shoes that you aren't afraid of getting dirty. These are good for parties, concerts, that kind of thing where your shoes are just going to get really messy. You should also definitely bring a pair of inside shoes, which are shoes that you can wear inside your dorm or, just slippers or something like that. I think it'll also be really helpful to have a shoe rack. This is helpful for keeping your shoes organized so that they aren't just sprawled all over your room. Okay, moving on to the bathroom. You will definitely want to bring a pair of shower slippers. I cannot stress this enough. Shower slippers are one of the most important things that you have to pack. Communal bathroom floors are absolutely nasty, and you do not want to be touching that with your bare dogs. So you must bring some shower slippers, whether that be flip-flops, slides, Crocs, whatever you need to keep your toes safe in the bathroom. And then of course you also want to bring whatever hygiene products you use. So a toothbrush, I personally recommend an electric one. Toothpaste, floss, I personally recommend an electric water flosser. Soap, shampoo, conditioner, body wash, etc. And then you also want to have a shower caddy. This is going to be so useful for carrying all your shower items to and from the bathroom so that you don't have to have like a million things in your arms. And then you also want to have a couple towels just to help keep yourself dry. Okay, moving on to the room itself. You will definitely want to bring bed sheets because your mattress will come absolutely bare, so you will want to have something to put on top of it. You might also want a mattress topper. College mattresses tend to be really stiff, so having a mattress topper can be kind of nice for your back. It'll also be good to bring some pillows because again, your room won't come with any of these things on your mattress. And I guess it's not super essential if you don't use pillows, but otherwise it is definitely going to be helpful. And then you also want to bring some blankets or a comforter. This might depend a little bit on the climate of your school, but these are really nice for, just keeping yourself warm when you're sleeping at night. I personally use a weighted blanket, which is so nice. I think a rug is something else that's kind of nice to have. It can make a nice little place for you to sit on the floor, and it's also good for dividing the space between where your shoes go, or like where the floor isn't clean and where the floor is clean and where your shoes cannot go. It's also really nice to have a vacuum. You might just want to keep a small one to keep your room clean, and because dorm vacuums are sometimes really, really gross or just non-existent altogether. You might also want to bring a Swiffer wet jet. This is something that's useful if you have non-carpeted floors and you want to keep them clean. And on that note, you might also want a Swiffer duster or just like something to dust with. This is useful for keeping dust off of your stuff because, at least in my case, my room gets kind of dusty sometimes. Also, storage bins. You're probably going to accumulate a lot of random stuff over the year, and you're going to need somewhere to store all of your things. So keeping some storage bins under your bed can help keep your room a little bit more organized. And then also some trash cans and trash bags. Sometimes your dorm will already have them, but if not, you will probably really want to bring your own. Otherwise, your room is going to be susceptible to getting really messy. Okay, so now on to some other trinkets that you might want. Medications, whatever you're already taking, you might want to bring. Disinfecting wipes to keep things clean. Hand sanitizer to keep your hands clean on the go. Paper towels. These have lots of uses and you never really realize how much you use them until you don't have any on hand. And since you are in college, you'll definitely want to have a big backpack with you. This is where most of your stuff will go. And then you can also have like a small bag or a fanny pack or a tote bag. These are good for carrying your things when you either don't want to carry around a big bulky backpack or your backpack doesn't align with your fit. You might also want to bring an umbrella in case it rains, but if you're going to school or somewhere where it doesn't rain, you don't really need one. You might also find a lanyard to be really useful for holding your ID and such. You really don't want to be losing your ID because you can lock yourself out of your classrooms, the dining hall, and even your own room. So having a lanyard just helps you make sure that you can keep track of your ID. You'll also definitely want to bring a water bottle. It's so important to stay hydrated, and you can't really do that if you're not drinking water. And then in terms of your gadgets and devices, you're definitely going to want to have some form of transportation depending on where you're going to school. You might want like a bike to get around campus without having to walk so much. And then you'll also want to have a lock for that bike. I actually personally use an electric skateboard because I think it's a lot cooler and more convenient, and because my old bike got stolen. An iPad and Apple Pencil. This is the most goated note-taking setup. You get the benefits of both written and typed notes, and it also replaces a lot of other school supplies like notebooks, folders, highlighters, etc. For a lot of students, the cost of getting an iPad and Apple Pencil can kind of be prohibitive, so a lot of schools actually have loaner programs where students are able to rent out iPads for the semester or maybe even for the year so that they can have something to take notes with. On that note, you'll actually also want to have pencils, erasers, and pens. I know these are like analog tools, but you'll definitely still be needing them since most exams are still taken on paper. You're also definitely going to want to bring your laptop. It's going to be hard to get through school without a computer since everything is online these days. And again, schools will have loaner programs for these kinds of things if cost ends up being a barrier for you. And while not super essential, I think it's also really nice to have a mouse for that computer. It's so much better for productivity than using the trackpad on your laptop, and it's going to end up saving you so much time in the long run. I also personally recommend having a monitor. It's really helpful to have a bigger screen for all of your different windows, and it's also really helpful for improving my productivity. I would also recommend getting a pair of noise canceling headphones. These are super nice for if you have a loud roommate and you really need to focus on your work, or if you're in a busy public space and you want to like listen to music or watch videos. I also recommend having a portable battery because if you do plan on being out of your dorm a lot or are going somewhere where you're going to be moving around a lot, having a portable battery will really help you to keep your phone alive. I'd also recommend having an extension cord. This one might not be super necessary, but if your room configuration is weird or there aren't enough outlets in your room, you'll want to have one of those extension cords that have like additional outlets on them so you can make sure everything's plugged in. I also find having an HDMI cord on hand to be really useful. This is nice for if you want to connect your laptop to like the dorm TV or to another monitor. I also brought my Nintendo Switch with me to campus, and maybe you could bring like some other gaming console. Maybe this is specific just to me, but I have gotten a lot of mileage out of my Switch. You know, I've been able to make a lot of great friends over a game of Super Smash Bros. So if you are interested in that kind of thing, you might want to bring your Switch as well. I would also really recommend bringing a hot water kettle. This is super useful for when it's like the middle of the night and you're hungry because you can cook up some instant noodles with your hot water kettle. You'll also definitely want to make sure that you bring your chargers. For some reason, I'm always losing my chargers, so it's important to have enough so that you can stay charged. I typically like to keep one in my room and then one in my bag to use on the go. You'll also want to have a lamp if your dorm doesn't come with one. This is good for when you want to work at night and not have the big ceiling light on, or if your roommate is asleep and you can't use the big light. On that note, you might also want to bring a fan. This is going to depend on where you're going to school and what the weather there is like, but if you're going somewhere really warm, you might not be able to survive without a fan. Next, in terms of like kitchen stuff, you'll definitely want to have like plates, bowls, cups, and silverware. You're going to need to have something to eat and drink with. It's definitely possible to just borrow them from the dining hall, to be honest, but if you don't want to do that, you'll have to bring your own. You also want to have dish soap and a sponge. You're definitely going to be needing these if you do have those utensils and stuff with you and you want to clean them. And then some other things that are nice to have are a microwave in case your dorm doesn't have one or you want one in closer proximity to you. Also a mini fridge. This is nice if you have any beverages or other things that you want to keep cool and you don't want to risk putting them in like a communal dorm fridge. Depending on the kind of person you are, you might also want a rice cooker. So if you eat a lot of rice, you'll find it really nice to have one on hand. And then also a Brita water filter. This is nice to give you some peace of mind if you don't like fully trust the water dispensers in your room. And then a space heater. This is again something that's going to depend on where you're going to school. If you're somewhere where it gets like really cold in the winters, having a space heater can be a lifesaver because it's like so nice to be all toasty and under your blankets when it's like -degrees outside. I also really like command hooks. These are really good for hanging things in your room, whether it be hanging like your coats or jackets or putting up posters or whatever else. I also really like string lights, which you might be able to see in the corner, maybe on my ceiling. And I definitely do not recommend getting LED lights. I really like string lights, and I've actually never used the big ceiling light in my room because I think they're just too much. String lights aren't as bright, which is really nice for having some ambient lighting when it's night out. You might also want to pack some scissors, tape, and glue. These are all things that you never really realize you need until you don't have them and have to go knocking on people's doors or messaging in their dorm group chat for them. Something similar to that is a mini sewing kit. Getting a tear in your clothes is so heartbreaking, so having a small sewing kit is really good for making quick repairs. And then you might also want a mini toolkit. One with a lofting tool would be really nice so that you can adjust your bed, and it's also just something that could come in handy at any moment. I think it'd also be really nice to have a handheld steamer and a lint roller. This is nice to keep, especially your formal clothes, looking all prim and proper. I think it's also good to have a mini first aid kit on hand since accidents do happen from time to time. And one thing I have in my room that I really like is my Snorlax. This is probably my most prized possession, and I actually don't sleep on the school provided bed because I've been sleeping on my Snorlax for like the past 3 years. It's 2 meters long and large enough to sleep comfortably on, so it's really nice to have. This is about it for everything that immediately comes to mind for what to pack. And looking around my room right now, there are quite a few other knickknacks that I do have, although they may not exactly be absolutely essential, at least for your first year. And so if you do want to hear more about what other gizmos I have, actually if you just want a tour of my room, since this is Lordic's room, leave a comment down below. And if you have any other questions about what you should or shouldn't bring to college, feel free to ask. I'll be sharing more advice on how to be successful in college, so be sure to like and subscribe for more.